What's up, YouTube? And we're back with a very special version of Will Talks About Stuff. This one's extra special because we got special guest watcher, Dr. Sean Roberts, my technology and society professor. In my last video, I asked you guys for some topics for this one, and one of the ones I found most interesting was if animals should be considered persons. And this is very applicable to today and all the technology that's coming out with animal testing and makeup and vaccines and all that. And so I asked you guys for some questions on that, and I added all that into this PowerPoint I'm about to show you guys, so I hope you appreciate it.
And welcome back. This is a little presentation I put together for you guys just on animal rights and, the whole topic about whether animals should be considered persons. I know it's coming up a lot with biotechnology and the testing of makeup and all that kind of stuff, but it's actually a little more ancient than you might think. So a little history on it. Back in 1635, the first ever animal safety law was put in place in Ireland, and this was called an act against plowing by tail and pulling the wool off living sheep. You can kind of tell by the name. They didn't really want you pulling the wool off living sheep. Pretty inhumane towards animals, but that's really where it all began. And then just throughout, and that was in 1635, and then throughout history, 1866, first American group found and protect animal rights. These statistics and dates are from ThoughtCo. 1966, the Animal Welfare Act, and 2010, probably in pretty recent memory for most of us, when the killer whale at SeaWorld killed its trainer and kind of started that whole downfall of SeaWorld and any kind of big fish or wildlife captivity place. And so a little more on the Animal Welfare Act here. The Animal Welfare Act was signed into law in 1966, and it's really the only law or legislature in the United States that regulates the treatment and usage of animals in these different various ways in the United States. But I mean, it's the only legislature, but the legislature is 264 pages long, as the USDA government website has on here from the online. It's got a 264 pages, and some of the stuff it covers is a lot. Licenses to who can sell and buy animals, regulations, like what kind of animals can be used for certain things, terms of how you have to take care of the animals in these research facilities, the kind of reports and record keeping you have to take care of to make sure you can keep your licenses for all this, recommended veterinarian care and staff members and just all stuff like that. And then it goes into tags and identification of animals, records, and just all that in general. And so it hasn't just stayed the same since 1966. There's been amendments. The 2007 amendment was a pretty big one. It was really into and the amendment was really more geared towards stopping animal fighting. And what it's really about is just getting rid of the attachment of weaponry or sharp objects onto the legs or any other part of the animal, and with the intent to fight other animals with them. And that's the most recent, or not the most recent, but the one I found most interesting amendment wise. The other ones are adding terms and technology and different definitions, but I found that one to be pretty interesting, considering I didn't realize that was as recent as it was. I thought that kind of fighting was a little outdated, but I guess 2007 is really when it came to be. And so animals, as we all know, they're not technically considered persons. That's what this whole presentation is about. But currently they're labeled property from the Animal Legal Defense Fund, and so that's a group that's really fighting to get this same status legally as humans and other stuff. And even the definition itself is a little hazy. Personhood isn't an elevated status, is an elevated status. It's not just humans have personhood. What is it? Companies, corporations, and even boats have personhood, and it's just really so that they can have some of the rights, such as religious freedoms, which is what corporations use it for, so they can avoid giving certain things to their employees and such like that. But it's not a one size fits all. It's not like, oh, personhood, you're a person. It's so that you can obtain certain rights that those that also have the personhood status can as well. And so I asked you guys for some questions. You guys sent these in. So one of you asked, how are corporations and ships, to name a few, granted personhood but not living and feeling animals? And so that's one I just talked about a little bit, and one that the Animal Legal Defense Fund is really hitting hard, but it's similar to. Oh, and the next question: do you think it'll be similar to the movements such as women's suffrage? And it's hard to tell, because right now property and like the Eurocentric view on what that is, and just the fact that we own animals like we owned other people at one point, or owned another gender, or even children. It's kind of hard to tell because of just the way we've done things and the amount of time it takes us to change. And the corporation ships, they lobby money, and they fought for it, and they got that. And it's really, like I said before, for the rights, and animals can't really lobby for themselves. They don't have any money to throw at it. And so we have these groups like the Animal Legal Defense Fund and others fighting to get their status back, and that's about all they can do at this point. And is there any legal difference between animals and other things defined as property? Animals have protection against like abuse and harm, whereas things such as chairs and lamps, you hit a lamp, I think you're probably pretty fine. But I mean, they have laws like the one I just talked, the Animal Welfare Act, and other laws that are more specific towards them, but their status is still the same as property. And so that's really where this distinction needs to be drawn at some point. And just a little bit what I'm on right now, I think they should be granted more hybrid status. Under the law, they kind of do have it. It's not technically defined where their legal status is, considering they're still property, but they have some of the protected laws like I just discussed. But they need to be granted this little bit, a step above that, just legally, so that it'll appease to, or it'll please these other groups, whereas it won't take too much away from those that think animals having a legal person status will devalue what it means to be a person, even though they probably don't know that the status of personhood is not just being human. And so it's hard to tell, but the hybrid status is a step in the right direction. But full personhood, who knows? That's in the far off future, I think, and because these kind of movements take a while. And so thanks for listening. This is just another episode of Will Talks About Things.